If you haven't taken this class before, I'm trying to do a mixture of both resistance training and the balance, proprioception, and nervous system training all in combination. So I'll start off in the chair doing some seated exercises to start off normally, and then we'll kind of transition onto the floor and doing some more of the functional training like we've done in the prior classes. I like to start off in the chair because, again, I know a lot of us, especially if you're stuck inside or you're going to be stuck in certain positions, so I like to target things, stretches, positional movements that are going to get some of those areas that are put under a lot of stress loosened up from some of that excess tension. So what we're going to need for the class are going to just be any kind of therapeutic resistance bands or elastic bands that you may have. If you don't have that, again, I always recommend like a belt, just a regular belt would work if you don't have a band. Any kind of blanket or a pillow that you want to put on a hard surface when we go down in the hands and knees and do some of the core work. If you want to cushion the joints, have a pillow there to cushion the knees. Also, if you have any kind of yoga blocks, dumbbells, any kind of weights that you may have lying around, I'm going to be trying to show you supplemental stuff that you can do with those kind of things if you have those on hand. So I'm going to try to do the best I can to try to make sure there's different variants of the same exercise so you don't feel like you're ever tied into one thing. I want to make sure that there's different modifications depending on where you're at to adapt that modality based off of where you're at regarding if it's easy, if you find some of the stuff pretty comfortable. I want to be able to make that progression for you. So that's going to be the main things. If you have those things on hand, just go ahead, grab those now, and then we'll get going here. So I'm going to grab a couple things, and then we'll get seated and we'll get going here. All righty. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. What we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to start off in the chair and then work our way backwards. I feel like that's the best approach simply because it's a nice, easy way to get started. And then from there, we can slowly progress into some of the more functional things after we've targeted some of the areas that are going to put under a lot of stress like we were talking about, right? So starting off today, we're going to go ahead and focus on our hip flexors and some of the hip musculature that gets tight from sitting. So we're going to go ahead, just bring one leg up to start. You start to get, you're going to start to see kind of a repetition with some of these exercises they do because essentially these are going to be the main ones. As long as you reinforce these ones, you should be good to go and the hips won't tighten up over prolonged periods. So what you can see here, I have one knee up. I have my ankle on top of my knee here and I'm pushing down on my knee. So I'm trying to get some lateral pressure through my knee. And then I like to lean diagonally across my body. So rather than just coming straight forward, try to lean diagonally to whatever side the knee's up. And then what I like to do is just hinge back and forth. As you can see here, I have a little bit of a space in between my chair. So I'm not all the way back. I like to stay engaged and forward. And then again, I'm just leaning forward, hinging here, and allowing myself to stretch through the hip. Let's go ahead and just do about 5 or 6 each way. Really focusing on that lateral movement going across our body and then hinging back up. And then as you can see, as I'm leaning, I'm applying that pressure down into my knee. Really good for any kind of sciatica pain, nerve impingement that you have in your back. This is going to allow some of that tight hip musculature to alleviate the pressure around the SI joint. And then don't be afraid to hold that tension when you come down. Take your time and just go slow. It's not about how quick you go. It's actually more about embracing that tension when you lean forward. Good. Let's change sides. Let's do the same thing on the other side now. I'm going to come up again, ankle on top of knee. I'm applying downward pressure onto that knee and then going across my body. Again, leaning to whatever side has the bent leg on the ground. We'll just go about 5 or 6 here to get that hip nice and loosened up. Because of the sitting posture, we tend to have always that tension build up in our hip. There's not a lot of ways that, unless you're going about stretching it, that you're going to reinforce opening up the hip. So that's why in a nice, easy position, just seated, you can really enforce opening up the hip without actually having to do a lot. That's why I like showing this one, because it doesn't take a lot to do, and it does really help open up the hips and alleviate some of that pressure and secondary effects of tight hips. You might be getting back pain. You might be thinking, oh, okay, my back's hurting, but it's actually stemming from the hip and some of the hip musculature. So that's why I stress that more than some of the other things. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and transition now. So the next thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and grab a belt. If you have an elastic band, that's fine too. I'm gonna start off with the band. I'll do one leg with the band, other side with the belt, so you can see both. We're gonna stay forward in the seat. I know I'm facing this way, but I'm leaning forward in the chair. I don't like to stay back. I'm gonna grab the band and we're gonna put it around our heel, like so. There you go. So I'm here and I'm leaning back. I like to have a little bit of room between the back of the chair to allow me to hinge backwards. So I'm pulling back with the band and leaning back towards the chair, lifting that leg straight up. And imagine like I have the toes pointed up, pulled up towards me. You don't want to have flexion at the ankle, so keep that toe pointed up to allow that stretch to the back of the leg. And just hinge, nice and easy. And then this is where you don't have to force the range of motion. Go to where you feel comfortable. But go slow. It's all about getting a nice, good stretch as you come upwards. And then this is where, try to be hard on yourself. Don't have any flexion here. You want to have that full extension through the back of the leg. So go to whatever range of motion allows you to keep that extension through the leg. And again, if we're sitting a lot, those hamstrings are going to get really shortened up because they can never find a really good position to lengthen out. So unless you're actively working on stretching your hamstrings, they're never going to get fully stretched out because there's no daily position that's going to allow us to stretch through here. Let's do one more here. Good. And let's change sides. We're going to go ahead and change sides. Just for the demonstration purposes, I'll use the belt for the second one. Loop it in here, and I like to place the belt right on the balls of the feet. So I'm not necessarily placing it around my whole foot. I'm just placing it around the balls of the feet. There we go. So coming through here, I'm placing it just around the balls of the feet through there, and I'm pulling straight up. It's actually probably better with the belt here because the elastic band has a little bit of give. The belt, you can actually keep it at a nice fixed point, but either one. And you'll probably feel that one leg's tighter than the other. That's okay. Just go nice and slow. Take your time. Try to hold it for maybe 2 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds. And then back down. Let's do one more for good measure, okay? Coming up, nice and easy. And then back down and relax. It's good. Let's take a second here. Okay, we're gonna do one more exercise before we transition. There we go. So I'm gonna shift over now to one side of my chair. If you're sitting in the chair, we're gonna go ahead, off center yourself so you can have one leg actually off the chair. So I know it's hard to see because I have these handles here, but ideally, if you don't have a chair that has the guards on the side, you want to be able to push one leg essentially off the chair so you can bring it backwards. So I'm going to be here, but I'm going to be trying to push my leg back away from me. My other leg is staying forward. So with this side, I'm going to try to push it backwards. The other side stays forward, and we're working on opening up the hip flexor. So by doing that, you're trying to push one side back, other side stays forward, and I can go ahead with my hand here and apply pressure through my hip and push it forward. So again, what we're looking like here is I'm sitting off center, one side of the chair, one leg comes back, I'm applying my hand to my hip, and then I'm hinging backwards, almost like my chest is going to be coming up towards the ceiling. And then come back this way, okay? So take your time. Let's do about 5 or 6, just nice and easy. We don't have to spend a lot of time, but I like to touch base. I like to go over these ones. There we go. We can go over these ones simply because they're really good exercises to reinforce really good posture. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I know I've been going over them each time in class, so I just want to touch base on these because they are really good staple exercises that you can do each day to combat some of the positional stress. Because again, I can't stress it enough. Sometimes I've worked with people who are convinced they have systemic, like really bad lower back problems, chronic back problems. Come to find out, it's actually hip musculature problems that are affecting your lower back rather than the back actually being the culprit. So these little things can actually help reinforce and take the tension off the SI joint in the lower back musculature and kind of prevent those flare-ups that you might think are lower back pain, but are actually stemming from other places. So again, let's just do a 5 or 6. You can go on one side, change sides. You don't have to wait for me, but just hang out until we're done. So I go nice and slow. I focus. I'm going to change side now. Again, I'm pushing my leg back. I'm applying my hand to my hip, and then I'm going to be trying to lean my chest up towards the ceiling. And then you can come back. And then naturally, hip flexor muscles are going to be tighter on one side than the other, just over compensation and through the years. So you'll probably feel as you're doing this, you're going to have one side that's the troublemaker, other side's okay. Disclaimer, I've done this a couple times. Make sure you do this on a surface that doesn't have any give. If you're leaning, hinging back in the chair, you don't want the chair to slide out from under you. So something to put a note, make sure you have something that's going to catch the chair a little bit if you're doing any kind of hinging motion. You can also do this in a standing position. If you didn't want to do it sitting, you could stand and just go into a split stance and open up this way. So alternatively, instead of sitting, you could also stand and just go into a staggered stance and open up this way. So from what we're going to do now, we're going to actually take a break from this. We're going to stand up and get going with the actual exercises in this point. So I'm going to bring it up one more time here. We're going to have a pillow, a couple blankets. We're going to go onto the floor now. So if you have any free weights, any kind of yoga blocks, anything just to make yourself comfortable on the floor. If you want something for your head, have those things ready so that it's nice and easy when we transition, okay? Moving down onto the floor here, I'm going to go ahead and grab a pillow. Okay. Go ahead and grab a blanket here, and I'm going to just put it, I like to put it on my knees. This will be a little bit more friendly through the knees. Once we're ready, we're going to forego this. We're going to go down into a hands and knees position first. And I'm going to demonstrate with the weight. So if you have a free weight here, you don't necessarily have to have a weight, but if you have a weight, it's preferable if you have one. I'm going to actually, I call this the cradle movement. So we're going to go ahead. One hand is going to come up and across my body. Let's see and try to get this just right. There we go. So I'm going to be coming across my body. And then I'm going to actually come up and towards the ceiling. Rotate down and across my body. Almost allowing my arm to slide on the floor. I don't want to stay elevated. I want to allow the weight to pull and drag across. And then you're going to come up and extend. Okay, so go nice and slow. Just take your time. Again, I'm allowing myself to stretch through there, almost like you're trying to reach for something that's a little bit further away from your body. You can't quite grab it, so you're trying to reach for it across your body, up and extend. Good. Let's do one more. Good, and relax. Let's go ahead, but change sides now. So same thing on the other side. Coming across, and then watch any kind of extension movement. If you have any shoulder pain, don't worry about doing that extension. Just focus on coming down and across. If you have any kind of posterior shoulder issues, you might get some tension through the neck and the shoulder. So don't worry about opening up if you have any of those underlying issues, okay? Again, go nice and slow. Focus on reaching down. I'm just showing this side so you can see. I'm reaching down and across my body. And then I'm allowing myself to try to open up my chest and my shoulders. As I come up, my neck and my head follow the weight. Good job, guys. Look good. And then try to open up. My goal is to get my wrist on top of my shoulder. Let's do one more. Good. All right, let's take a quick break. Drop the weight. Let's come up into a tall kneeling position. Good, let's take a second here. Good job, guys. All righty. So the next thing we're gonna do a couple core movements. So when we're ready, if you need, we're gonna actually go onto our side. So I'm gonna bring this pillow in and put it right down on my elbow. So we're gonna go ahead and get in this type of position. So I'm lying with my knees up. My knees up at 90 degrees, and I'm loading right into my elbow. I have a pillow here, just a cushion from the force going down into my shoulder. So this will be the next position we're in. Just kind of a 90-degree, like almost like a fetal position. Knees are tucked up, but I'm sidelined. What we're gonna try to do here is get some shoulder stabilization in there, drive through our arm, and try to lift our hip and back down. If you feel comfortable, this is where you can go into a full plank position, extend up, and then with your weight, go ahead and grab the free weight here. We can work on getting that core activation through here and then get some extension with our arm. You could either do it two ways. You could stay extended through the full duration and do your exercises this way, or you could do one at a time, dropping your hips down, come up, rise up, back down. So that's the advanced. Start off with the hips here and rising. Get used to activating your core. Once your core is activated and you feel like you have the shoulder stabilization, that's when you can start moving in to the full side plank position with some external rotation in there. So I like to do exercises that are all encompassing. It's not just targeting one muscle group. Really focus on driving through that shoulder. I always try to say belly button in. So if I'm trying to activate my core, I'm trying to push my navel into my spine. So as I raise my hips up, belly button in, hold, and then you can rise. But even though you start working with your arm, the attention always stays on the core. So let's go ahead, let's do 8 to 10 on each side. Nice and easy, just rising up and back down like that. I'm gonna show a couple modified, and then I'll show you the full version. Good job, guys. Try to hold it for about a second, a little less, just get used to the movement. Good, let's take a quick break. We're gonna go ahead and change sides, okay? So use this time, we're gonna go over and change onto the other side here, okay? I'm gonna stay facing this way, just so I can see everyone. So that's gonna be the first thing we do. Let's go ahead and get lined up. If you're changing sides, same thing. Make sure you're loading right into your elbow. One thing I always like to cue when I'm working with people is that you don't want to have joints misaligned and you're loading incorrectly through the joint. So if you're doing some of these exercises, look at where you're positioned. Takes a, it's a self-check thing. You're always kind of self-aware, cognizant of how you're loading your body. So when you're doing this, make sure your elbow is vertical, right under the shoulder. You don't want to be out here and loading incorrectly through the shoulder. That's going to cause some impingement. So just make sure when you're loading through the elbow, everything stays stacked so that the joint takes the load the right way. So same thing, 8 to 10 on the opposite side, correctly loading the joint. Either choose to have your knees up, or you can go into the full plank position with some external rotation. My goal is to get my wrist on top, stacked on top of my shoulder when I come up. Go nice and easy, work on breathing, belly button in as you raise the hips up. And then again, the weight is just an extension of your body. Good job, guys. All righty, and relax. Let's take a second. We're gonna take a break here, and we're gonna actually just go onto the back. So we're gonna use this as a transition exercises for everyone to catch their breath. We're gonna just go onto the floor and lay with your back, everything face up at the ceiling here. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put we can have the pillow here right now so our head's not hyperextended. Ideally though, let's go ahead and grab 2 pillows, one for the knees and then one for the head. All right, so I went ahead and just grabbed another cushion for my knees, and all this is for is to put in between the knees. I'm just finding something that I can squeeze my hips together. So I have a pillow in between my knees here, and then what we're gonna do is if you have 2 free weights, you can bring those up over your head. We're gonna go ahead and get into some core exercises here. So what we're gonna try to do here, 2 ways we can do this. You can start with just your lower body, just working on tucking. But as I'm tucking, I'm really focusing on keeping my hips engaged. I don't wanna be lax with my legs. I wanna make sure that if someone were to come and try to pull this pillow out from my knees, I have that tension and it's not going anywhere. So I'm keeping my hips engaged. I'm gonna tuck my knees up towards my chest, and then I'm gonna bring them back down. This is the first way we can do this. If you find this easy, we can incorporate the upper extremities. You can go ahead and grab 2 free weights, 1 in each hand, and then as you come up, you can even use 1. As you come up, you're tucking, and then you're coming back. Extending up, and coming back. As you're doing this, really thinking about bringing your hands down towards your toes, tucking your chin up towards your chest. Again, keeping that engagement here with the pillow. That's going to activate the whole body. Good. Let's take a quick breather, dropping this, and then we're going to actually just take our hands and then push them up towards the ceiling. So we're staying nice and flat. We still have our knees up, but my hands are just down to my side. So what we're going to do is really work on the pelvic tilting motion for a second, just to give ourselves a good baseline, a nice easy exercise. If you're familiar with the corpses pose, they do it in yoga a lot, and it's to help work on our diaphragmatic breathing and then some of the hip muscles a little bit. So what we're going to try to do here is just work. We're not necessarily raising our hips up off the floor. We're just working on rotation of the hip. So in this position, I'm just going to try to tuck my hips like this and then tuck back. I'm trying to squeeze my hips forward just a little bit and then I'm tilting back. So I'm just rotating here. I'm squeezing that pillow and rotating my hips in, relaxing and rotating my hips out. Squeezing the pillow in and then rotating my hips forward. And as you can see, I'm not raising my hips off the floor here. I'm just tilting forward and back. And we call these pelvic tilts. Again, over time, our hip flexors get really tight and they push our hips back. So that's going to put unwarranted pressure on our hips and our lower back. So this is why really getting into some of these motions each day can really help open up your chain and take pressure off some of those areas that get put under stress. All right, let's take a quick break. I'm going to take the pillow out. There we go. Good job, guys. All right, so we're going to get into the next exercise here. We're going to go into a full bridge now. So I have both my feet on the ground. What I'm going to try to do here is actually push up, and we're going to go into a full extension bridge here to start. So from here, we're going to try to kick one leg out, back down, other leg out, back down, and then come back down. If you feel like you can keep your hips up the whole time, let's try to do 8 on each side with your hips up. So you're going to kick, kick. Really try to kick towards the ceiling. Try to drive up. Keep those hips up. Don't let your hips drop. Think about driving through the heel. Shoulders down into the floor and kick up towards the ceiling. Good. Let's do a couple more, guys. Looking good. All right. Dropping the hips and relax. Let's take a second. Good job. Good, good. All righty. All right. Taking a second here. So now what we're going to try to do, we're going to do this one more time. But now as we come up, we're going to extend the opposite arm and reach across our body. So bear with me here. What we're going to try to do first is I'm going to raise my left leg up, and then I'm going to actually try to reach across my body and touch to the opposite side. I'm not raising my hips up here. Don't worry so much about that. Just work on getting across your body and reaching. And then coming back down, and then you can bring your leg back down. Kick out, reach across your body, and then back down, relax, okay? So again, I'm kicking out towards the ceiling, touching my opposite knee, and then back down. If you have a free weight, I'm grabbing a 5-pound weight, and then you can go here. Go nice and slow. Don't worry about raising your hips. Just worry about reaching across your body. Good. 2 more, guys. Good. Okay, let's go ahead and change sides here. So same thing on the other side. I'm kicking that side up, and then I'm going to try to reach across my body and then back down. Good job. So think about going away from your body, coming in and touching across your body. Good. Couple more. All right. Last one. Woo. All right. And relax. Good, good. All right. We're going to take a second here. We're going to actually come up. Let's take a second and transition into a standing position. We're going to go ahead and get into some of the standing stuff. So we're going to go ahead, stand up, use the chair as a base of support. And we're going to get into some of the balance and functional training now. So what we're going to do here, there we go. So we're going to use this chair as a base of support. Okay. So if you need it, I always like to have a chair next to me just if you feel off center. you have something there to use. We're gonna go ahead, if you have an elastic band, but you can use that, or you can use a pillow with a, actually you could probably just use a belt here. So we're gonna use one of these two variants. Either go ahead and grab a belt, or go ahead and use your resistance band for these next couple things. All right, so we just worked a lot on opening up some of the chain and our hip muscles a lot. So we're gonna go ahead and start going in some movements to utilize those hip muscles a little bit. So what we're gonna try to do here, a 2-in-1 kind of exercise. I like to loop the band, so I'm around it like this. So as you can see, I don't really have it, I'm not holding on to it necessarily, I'm just looping it inside my arms. You don't want the tension too tight, you just want it enough where you can pull it out. So you don't want to have it so tight where you don't have any movement. You want to have it tight enough where if I were to try to extend out, I have a little bit of tension as I extend, okay? So with that being said, the first movement we're going to try to do is a lateral step. So let me try to bring this down a tad. All we're going to try to do first, we're just going to do one side at a time. We're going to focus on stepping out, sitting down, and opening up. Stepping back and together. So I'm laterally stepping, opening up, stepping back and together. So I'm really, imagine like you're sitting back in a chair. Open up and then back together. Step out, open up, back together. Let's go nice and slow. Take your time. As I'm doing this, a cueing thing is as I'm squatting back, you don't want your chest to stay up too much. Imagine like I'm coming down and I'm pushing my hips back, okay? We don't want to have our knees come over our toes. So you want to make sure that your hips are coming straight back. So when I'm squatting back, I'm imagining like I'm pushing my hips back. So take away some of the pressure from the knees. Good. Let's go ahead and do the same thing on the other side now. 10 to 12 on the opposite side. Good job. Good. One more. All right, and relax. Take a quick breather. So what we're going to try to do now is go ahead and anchor that band to one side of the hip. So I'm bringing my left hand, anchoring it to my hip here. You can hold onto it like so, or you can just loop it in, whatever you feel comfortable with. If you want to hold onto it like this, anchor it to one side, and then we're going to try to pull out and away. If you feel comfortable with this, I want us to go on one side. So I have one leg up. There we go. All right, so this is where it's going to start working our core musculature. So when we bring our knee up, that's going to require us to have core stabilization, knee, hip, and ankle stabilization. So when you're doing this, the goal now turns into making sure that you don't waver. You don't want to have the knee moving. You don't want the hips swaying. You want to stay nice and level. Imagine like you got a wall on each side of you. So I'm going to pick my right knee. Opposite hand comes to my hip, and I'm opening up. I'm going to grab here so you can see. And then I'm opening up this way. Good. Try to get it so your wrist finishes about parallel to your shoulder. Good. Let's change sides. Same thing. Anchoring opposite arm, hand to pocket. Grabbing onto the band on this side now. And then same thing. Bringing this side up. Keep the core tight. up and away. If you don't have the stabilization down yet, start here with both feet on the ground and work on just pulling out, keeping the core tight, and then work to bringing up here. Good job, guys. Let's do 3 more. 1 more. Try to hold this last one. Good. Relax. Let's take a second. Go ahead and drop this for now. Good stuff. Good, good. All right. I'm going to challenge everyone's balance a little bit here. So we're going to go ahead and find an uneven surface to step on. It could be a pillow, a yoga block, something that's going to be a little bit of uneven surface to challenge your ankle, core, hip stability, as well as your nervous system a little bit. Go ahead and grab one of these. And what I'm going to do here is just fold it. You can either fold it in half or you can just leave it as is. But I'm going to fold it in, actually, I'll fold it in half. So if you choose to fold it in half, a little bit more difficult than if you were to keep it as is. And as you can see, my ankle wants to waver. Your goal is to try to stand on one side and keep that stability. Once you feel comfortable, you could start working on doing some rotation with the upper body. So what I'm going to do here, if you're feeling really good, now that you saw how my feet are, I'm going to show you something that you can do with the upper body. So as my knee's here, I'm standing on the pillow. I can go here and start working a little bit on rotation. That's a little bit more difficult. Just a little bit. Keep the weight close to you and work on just a little bit of tucking. And then the same thing on the other side. I'm going to bring the other side up. I'm going to fold this in half, stepping down, loading my leg up. And then here, the further away the weight goes to your body, the more stability it's going to require. So if you choose to get your arms fully extended, you're going to see how much more difficult that is opposed to having your arms close to your, tucked in. So as you extend, it's going to be a lot more challenging opposed to being here. Let's do a couple here. I want us to have our whole torso to follow our wrist. So when you rotate, I don't want to have your neck stay squared here. Your head should follow where your wrist goes. So you should be looking where the weight goes. Good job, guys. All right. Let's relax. We'll drop that knee. Let's take a quick breather. Good stuff. Good, good. All right. I'm going to drop this pillow for a second before I go this. Okay. We're going to actually stay in this position, but we're going to go into a split stance. So I'm going to be in this position here. What I'm going to choose to do first, we're going to go into a staggered stance with our feet actually out, kind of like this. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to actually show this position first. So we're going to be here. We're going to focus on coming through, passing it, coming up, and then from here, coming up, and we're going to actually try to press over our head. So I'm going to come down and around, up, and press, down, and back through my legs, up, down, and back through my legs. If you don't have a weight, this is what I would want you to do. Coming through here and just work on touching with both hands up, and then bring your hands up over your head. Come down and touch. Really work on stretching your hamstring as you come down. Come up over your head. Down, back, up over your head. If you have a weight, you're going to be here pass it through, press up, down, and press. Down through here, keep the weight close to you, and press. Down and through. Up and press, down and up. As I'm coming down through my legs, I'm really focusing on pushing my hips back. You don't want to stay here and pass it up. As I come down, I'm allowing myself to hinge back with my hips and then come up, okay? Let's do one more, coming through. Good. And press it up. Good. And relax. Good, good. All right. I'm going to go ahead and grab a belt and lay it across the floor here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is just put a line of belt across the floor. Boom, bada bing. And so what we're going to try to do is work on, this is where we're going to transition into vestibular and our balance. So what I'm doing here is lining up the belt. So I have to walk on a tandem walk all the way through the belt. And I'm going to go all the way through and then come back this way. Make sure you go heel toe and then work on the stability. If you feel good with this, you can go ahead and grab a weight and put it on one side of your body. So I'm going to go this, and I'm going to hold it out and away from my body. And same thing. And then walk backwards. Good. Let's go ahead and change sides. If you're holding onto a weight, we're going to go ahead, off center it to the other side now. Same thing on the other side. And then walking back nice and easy. Good job, everyone. All right, one more time. And then walking back nice and easy. Good. Let's go ahead and find the middle of the belt and then spread the floor so we have a good space. I'm going to be as close to the belt as possible, but I want to have my feet spread now. So I'm going to be, my feet are together, as you can see, I'm on the belt, but my legs are spread. Okay? So what we're going to try to do now in this position, bring this up a little bit. So in this position, we're going to work on our vestibular part. So you can hold on to anything. If you have a band, we can use the band here. What I'm going to try to do here is make a Y as I come up. So both feet are on the belt. What I'm going to try to do is as I come up, I'm going to try to come up and away and back down. So I'm making a Y with my hands. But one thing that I'm not noting now is as I bring my hands up, I'm watching this band. So I want to maintain eye contact with the band through the full range of motion. I should be tracking the band more than anything else. I don't want to put my focus on anything else, but you should be focusing your eye contact on the band. So I'm going to be on a split stance, standing on the belt. My hands are going to be down here, and as I open up, I'm going to be trying to bring my hands to a Y position while keeping eye contact on that band. So find a point on the band, really try to open up. Eyes on the band, and then back down nice and easy. Ready? Open up, eyes on the band, back down nice and easy. As you can see, as you come up over your head more, that's where the balance gets affected a little bit. So focus on keeping that stability as you open up over your head. Then back down nice and easy. Coming up. Good. Back down nice and easy. Open up. Good, and back down, nice and easy. Good, let's change sides. Other side's coming forward now, other leg is coming back. Right here. Both feet on the belt, eyes on the band. I'm opening up, bringing it into a wide position, and then back down nice and easy. Just go nice and slow. Good, let's do 2 more, guys. Good, 1 more. Good, back down and relax. So going off here, let's go ahead and sit back in the chair here. All right, coming in here. Good job, everyone. Good, good. All right. So we're gonna go in the chair. We're gonna take a quick breather here for a second. Let's just take a quick break. We're gonna work on rotation. So what we're gonna do now, just bring your hand over and we're gonna rotate to one side. So starting here, I know we didn't do, one thing we didn't do today is that sideline stretch where we work on rotating with our upper body. We'll keep our lower body fixed. So this is a good supplement to that. We're gonna go ahead with our right hand, and just nice and easy. If you don't have handles, you can anchor yourself to the knee. And then what I'm gonna try to do here is rotate towards the opposite side. So I'm gonna stay nice and tall here, almost like you're at a 90-degree angle, and you're gonna try to pull and rotate. Just thinking about rotating to one side, keep your chest up, and then switch, rotate opposite way. Focus on taking a big deep breath in, breathing out as I come through. Same thing on the other side, big deep breath in. I'm anchoring my hand to my knee, and then I'm opening up to the opposite way. Good, let's do 1 more each way. 1 more time, anchoring myself to the opposite knee, and then rotate to the opposite direction. Good job, guys. All right, so we're gonna finish up. We got 1 more exercise we're gonna do for the lower body before we finish up here. So I'm gonna go ahead and I like to finish up with this one because it's a really good conditioning exercise to do, easy to do. We're gonna be here, and I'm gonna sit forward in my chair a little bit so you can see. So I'm sitting forward in my chair. Then one leg is gonna be out like this. So I'm gonna position myself so I have 1 foot down, 1 foot up, and we're gonna be working on hinging back, sitting up nice and easy. Hinging back, pushing up nice and easy. Okay? So one thing to be cautious of, just make sure that chair is close to you when you sit back. You don't want it way out here and then not have it close to you. So that's always one thing I look for. Make sure the chair is close to you. It's not going to slip. Pick one side and plant that leg. So I look at my whatever leg is planted, and it should be the heel right under the knee. Whatever side is up, I'm just going to keep out in front of me. Then from here, what I'm going to try to do is just work on loading through that heel, pushing up through that heel, and then sitting back nice and easy. If you have weights that you want to use for your hands, you can go ahead, just push up through the floor, then bring the arms up over your head. So from here, as I stand up, I can extend up over my head and then go ahead and sit back afterwards. So I'm going to push up, extend, back down, nice and easy. Okay? Push it up, extend, and then back down, sitting back nice and easy. Okay? So feel comfortable with that. If you have trouble doing the staggered stance, just do the regular stance here, split-legged, both together, and just work on hinging up, As you come up, eyes up over your head, and then back down, nice and easy. Do about 10 to 12 on each side. Just go nice and easy. Focus on pushing up, arms up over your head, eye contact with your hands as you come up, and then sit back nice and easy. Good job, guys. Pushing up nice and easy, and then sitting back nice and easy. So I recommend, what I did here is I just pushed the chair up against the wall so it doesn't slide. You don't have to worry about it sliding out from under you, and then hinging back. Good. So start with the split stance and then work your way to the staggered stance, guys. Good. Let's do 2 more for good measure. Finish up nice and good. Good. Last one. Good. Boom, bada bing. Good, good. All right, we'll go ahead, change sides. Shifting over, arms up, leg out, and pushing up. Also really good, because this is also giving us a good way to, if you're doing it in a split stance, it's giving your Achilles, if you have range of motion of your, not a lot of range of motion of the ankles, this is a really good exercise to help actually improve the range of motion of the Achilles tendon. If it gets tight to the back, you're not going to have a lot of range of motion of that ankle joint. So doing the split stance under load gives that tendon a little bit more pressure to open up and stretch out. So again, really good exercise to help open up and increase the mobility through some of the posterior parts of the leg, and to get some more mobility. You know, as we get older, if you're not reinforcing some of the joints, some of the things that need a lot of joint laxity and mobility, then they tend to get rigid, and then that's when the functionality tends to decrease a little bit. So doing some of these things along with the passive stretches are really going to be beneficial just as a supplemental thing. I'm really thinking about trying to use bare minimum equipment, assuming we can't go into gyms now. I try to think about what people have around the house and things that they can utilize without having to go out and make a huge investment for the time being. I always try to stress the idea that movement is good health as long as it's movement. That's all you really need to do. It's not about necessarily what you implement or what modalities you do. It's more simply about what exercises that are you doing each day. Are you engaging in some sort of exercise? As long as it's something, that's preferable. It doesn't matter what it is. So that's why I like to try to structure my classes around that idea. But just saying, okay, if you're feeling you're tired and you don't want to do a lot of exercise for the day, but you want to still do something, these exercises can be put into your toolbox to do when you don't really feel like committing a lot, or you don't have the time to go out and do a full regimented routine. So that's why I try to structure my classes in that sense, because obviously we're not going to be in this quarantine for a long period of time. Eventually it's going to be lifted, and some of the means of exercising are going to come back a little bit. But I really hope that if you're around the house and you have the means to do some of these modalities, it can at least hold you over until then, and uplift the spirits afterwards, I'm sure, you know? So I know it's hard for the time being to fill the void and stay busy, but I hope by, you know, doing these things with you, it fills some time, and it also kind of gives you a little bit of a stress relief as well. So with that being said, that's going to be the class for Tuesday. I like to try to play around with it a little bit. I really appreciate you guys spending the afternoon with me. It's good to see everyone show up. I really appreciate it. So again, like always, I'm an open channel of communication. If there's anything that you want to reach out to me regarding questions, concerns, or things that you have, you know, you want to start implementing, but you just want to make sure you have the right approach to it, I'll be more than happy to help everyone out with that. I hope everyone's hanging in there. They're enjoying their week. Things are starting to get back to normal to some extent. So little by little, you know, chipping away at it. But for the time being, I hope everyone has a good week, like always. I'll see everyone next Tuesday, and then remember, stay happy, stay healthy. Have a great week for me, okay, guys?